Welcome everyone to interview number 13 of OSU Improvement Month. Today with Aery. Welcome.
Hey,
Hey, so I feel like we've known each other for so long. I think I've known you for maybe 5 years or so, and this is maybe the first time we're really talking face to face. But
yeah, we've had mutual servers for a long time.
yeah, I think just in case anyone is not familiar with you, could you give a brief intro to who you are around the community as a player and whatnot, and what people might probably recognize you for?
Hey, I'm Aery. I am rank. What's my rank?
I think close to 30,000?
37. Oh, I got nerfed. Yes.
Oh, I was going to say no.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really play on bench anyway. I play hidden, low AR, like really low. Um, Basically, if you've thought of like a dumb way to play OS, I've probably tried it. I think I've grinded out like skills in uh like different ways to play the game that a lot of people don't even consider.
And
Yeah, I'm not sure.
no, I think that's a good intro. I want to start actually with sort of your backstory as a player, sort of your history, like what first got you into the game and what made you gravitate towards these really unique play styles.
Okay, so I started 2014, I think, early on, maybe February. So it's been about almost 9 years, 8.5. I think I started, I got into hit really early. I think about 2 weeks into the game, I saw my friend play it, and it was quite, it seemed really interesting because he's like not hitting the notes,
Oh,
but he's hitting them.
right.
So it's like what is going on? So then I put it on and I just kind of fell in love. I've been playing with hidden for ever since then. And then I think I was always skill cap. So I would get bullied at multi because I'd be playing like easy and normal diffs and my friends would put on hard diffs, right? And I
Uh,
just would not be able to process it at all. So it was pretty tough.
and hard diffs as in like 3 stars. And so
Yeah,
when you're
yeah,
like really new to the game,
yeah.
I see.
I mean, they also started at the same time, so it kind of felt bad not being able to play the same maps. And so I had to stick to what I could play, right?
Right.
And I think because of my mentality, I was able to, I got like top 50s, top 8s really early on because I just threw on all the mods for free score. So yeah, that was like that's kind of like my introduction to the game. Eventually, I finally improved, started playing higher star rating maps. But since I had already started playing for leaderboard, um, that never that didn't go away right away. So I found that like older maps, AR7, AR8 with hidden were pretty free. So I just did those. I still played normally because I would play multi with my friends and stuff. But that like on my free time, I would occasionally find a map where I could do that and just grind it out. I think um, oh yeah. Another thing is that my friend told me to download beatmap packs, right?
Uh,
That's like that was like the early advice that he gave me. And he said don't download anything that's really early because those maps are not as good. So I went to the website, I started downloading them, and I think I must have made a mistake or something, but I started downloading the packs from the middle. So I started the game with mostly 2010 maps. It's so that was kind of
did
a
you
lot of the maps that I started with were old, even though I started in 2014.
did you think anything of that at the time? Was it like did you was it how do I put this? did you feel like you were on the right track, or did you think anything of those maps, or was it just like, oh, okay, this is, I guess this is just how the game is?
Yeah, I mean, I was just like, this is, these are maps, so I'll play them. But then when I would go to multi, right, the maps are different. So, I mean, I just ended up getting exposed to a lot of different things right away.
So from there, I'm curious how your interest in playing for leaderboards kind of shifted in favor of kind of pushing easy mod, I assume, is how it started, and then gradually going lower in approach rates.
What do you think? If you're an old player or like old map player, going from leaderboards to easy is really easy when you find CS7 maps. Because
Oh,
back then people couldn't aim right, like it just wasn't the aim wasn't as good. So you could get on top 50 leaderboards easily with that mod. And since I was already playing hidden, you, I would still beat all the easy players or the few people that played easy on those maps.
so when you say on the leaderboard, you're talking about the global leaderboard?
Yeah, global.
Oh, I'm kind of amazed that there, you make it sound like there's so many maps where you can get top 50 with easy mod.
There used to be. There used to be when I started, because that was back in 2015, like early 2015.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, I
So I mean,
assume you're talking about like old maps that like just hadn't been populated with like really crazy DT scores and stuff.
well, they didn't even have like they weren't even full of no mod FCs
Oh, you're
like
talking stuff.
CS6, CS7.
Oh, and I assume stuff like crazy maps like Freedom Dive, I know had like easy or easy halftime, I think, on the leaderboards at the time.
Um, yeah, but those were way above my level at that
Oh,
time.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. I wasn't good when I started. I don't think anyone was. But yeah, like especially older maps where they're not populated yet. They're not being picked for tournaments or anything.
So from there, I assume there was something that drew you more to Easy Hidden than any other gameplay? Was it mostly because you could get those free leaderboard scores, or was there some aspect of it that just was a lot more maybe soothing or just more captivating than other gameplay styles?
I can trace a lot of the turning points in my uh I guess skill development to friends. Something that a friend says, right? Um I think back then I tried to be an all round player, just someone who's very well rounded, but at least, with the hidden mod. And I think because I was trying to play everything, people started to know me for the things that were weird, like easy and flashlight. So, some people would call me an easy player because I would put on easy and multi when we play. And I think that just kind of it upset me a little bit because I wanted to be well rounded. I didn't want to be an easy player. So I was like, all right, I'll if you're gonna call me an easy player, then I'm gonna show you what an easy player looks like.
Oh,
So then I put on hidden or I put on easy, in combination with hidden, of course, and just played that for a long time. Because back then I was still a PP farmer. I would play for the reason why I farmed PP was because I cared a lot about my profile accuracy. So I decided, um, my friends didn't tell me that if you mess it up really early, it gets hard to fix it later. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna fix this. And so in order to fix your accuracy, you have to keep getting top plays, right?
oh yeah,
With
yeah.
high accuracy. So that's what I did. I became a farmer with trying to get to 99.5. I don't think I ever got it though.
You're really close, actually, right
Yeah,
now.
easy actually helped because you get you get high X scores. Yeah, it goes up and down a little bit with reworks.
Right. So you, so okay, so at this point, you're basically kind of grinding easy, almost out of spite, it sounds like, but sort of as a dedication to really becoming the epitome of an easy player. So from there, were you still trying to push your mechanical skill, or were you just trying to dive really deep into the reading aspect of easy mod?
I think at some point people would say that it was cool, so I was like, all right, I'll just keep playing it. I think I got introduced to the easy community through Yanaro and Unique. They kind of invited me to a easy Discord server, uh, to two different ones over the years.
Did they just come across you through the leaderboards, or how did you come across them?
Yanaro through leaderboards, Unique through multiplayer,
Ah, okay.
and yeah, so I started getting to know them. I think I I was just playing easy on whatever, trying to get scores on um, whatever people thought was cool, just because I could do it. Because I didn't mind, because I had fun playing whatever, right? Because if you're someone that plays in multi with easy, you get exposed to everything.
Ah, yeah.
So yeah, just play whatever. It I think I just had fun, really.
It sort of seems like at a certain point you got bored of easy, like it's started to become not a challenge for you to read anymore. Is that an accurate sort of assumption of like the next step in this story?
Yeah, I think I think you got it right there. Once you play, once you're just sight reading easy, you wanna I wanted to play more dense, harder stuff, right? And so the next step is to play halftime on maps that you mechanically can't do. So from there, I was exposed to AR one, two.
And this was on like 5 star, 6 star stuff, I assume, or like four even.
Yeah, I think after easy and halftime, it would go down to like four.
Yeah, yeah. But like no mod, those maps were maybe around 7 or so stars.
Yeah, 5, 6, eventually 7. But yeah, a lot of people. I think after that, then the next step is just AR0, right? Just editing the maps around mid 2018. I started doing that. And with AR0, I finally was able to get to I don't know, the way it is in my head, right? I still want to be a well-rounded player, but I want to also keep grinding, reading, just low AR stuff. So when you're editing maps to AR0, you don't have to use easy anymore just to lower the AR. It actually
Oh,
becomes a difficulty reduction. So I could play whatever I wanted, and it felt pretty good.
so what exactly did you do to edit the AR? Did you, at least when you were starting out, I assume you may have done it manually, but what is that progression? Because I think now you use a separate client, but what was that progression of
Yeah.
like the different ways you edited the AR?
Um, yeah, just manually. I think after a while, I started using a tool made by Player Zero, which is pretty helpful. You can make a diff from inside the game. I think now a lot of people use OSA Trainer.
Right, right.
It's but yeah, I mean that part's not too interesting. It's just making edits. Nowadays, I just use a practice client where you can set the AR. It's kind of like Magos on Steam.
So now you can set the AR to even in the negatives.
Yeah, so that's why I stopped playing on Bancho because I just want to be able to do that anytime.
I feel like this progression in general is really unique, not necessarily, I mean, obviously because the playstyle is very uncommon, but as you mentioned, you're sort of pushing difficulty in kind of, you sort of found this like beaten path like through the woods almost where like it's like this, there's a main road of increasing difficulty by increasing the star rating, and for you kind of saw AR as like an alternative route to increasing difficulty without it really being based on star rating.
So another reason why lowering AR is like as a playstyle is really cool is because you can you can find any map fun, right? With hidden. If you keep lowering the AR, it gets really hard. At like any map you play.
Right.
Like even if it's just one note, if you put the AR low enough, you have trouble timing it. And it's actually really interesting to think that everybody has a reset AR. Like a AR is so low that they're just as bad as when they started the game.
Oh, that's an interesting way
And
to
and
put it.
I've tested that. I think mine's around minus 100 or so.
uh,
I'm looking at the live chat. I think someone says that I play tablet, but actually I'm a mouse player.
oh, yeah, I was going to get to that actually. So, touching on your sort of playstyle in general. So, I assume, I mean, most people played mouse when they started, but is there a certain reason why you ended up sticking with it?
Um, it's harder,
Oh,
though I think it's more fun. I think especially with no cursor, it took a long time for me to figure out how to do it because it's just I think that's the one playstyle where there really is such a big difference that you cannot compare scores at all.
between mouse and tablet or cursor
Yeah,
and no
mouse and
cursor?
tablet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean cursor and no cursor is just gonna be way harder no matter what.
That's actually an interesting take. I've never really heard people say, because most people say like, oh, mouse tablets preference, like you can get good with both, but it sounds like you're kind of saying like they're completely different, almost as if like you would want different leaderboards for the two playstyles.
Well, if you have no cursor,
Oh, oh,
I think if you have a cursor there, it's kind of
oh,
comparable, but there's still a difference. It's just not huge, right?
okay. I see what you mean. Like tablet no cursor versus mouse no cursor.
Yeah, yeah.
Ah, okay, okay.
I mean, any absolute position. I mean, if you use touchscreen, right? Obviously, it doesn't.
Yeah,
There's
okay.
no difference. Yeah.
That's true. So, one thing I do know about you as, I guess, a separate interest alongside Osu is puzzles. I know that's something that we've both sort of bonded over our love of solving crazy puzzles. But what would you say is the relationship, or how would you compare Osu, especially the low AR and reading aspect, to kind of always challenging yourself with lower ARs? How would you relate that to puzzles and puzzle solving?
I guess if you're constantly trying to figure out how to do things, right? Like, for example, playing no cursor on mouse or doing random challenges, right? Because I'm pretty sure I've accomplished a lot of things in the game that nobody even cares about. And not even me. It's just things that I thought of, hey, it would be really dumb to do this. And then I try it. And then I just, get decent at it and then get bored. I'm pretty sure I have the highest UR FC on a ranked map.
Oh,
And that's not something that anybody would even consider, right?
all right. That's funny.
Can you guess the UR?
What is it in this? I assume it's with double time because that multiplies it. I would think it's in the.
Halftime.
Oh, wait. Okay. Well, okay. I assume it's easy halftime then,
Um,
or
I think it
maybe.
might just be halftime. Not
Uh,
sure.
then I'd say somewhere
Maybe
in the
easy.
thousands. I'd guess like 1.2K.
Yeah, 1 point. I made a tweet about it. I forgot. I think it's about 1.78K.
Oh,
I think theoretically you can get slightly over 1.8K, but I never got it.
dang. All right. So, how do you conceptualize reading? I'm sure you might get this question somewhat often, but sort of what, as someone who's kind of taken reading and pattern processing to that sort of level, like sort of no man's land, how do you at this point think about reading as a skill?
I think you overestimate how popular I am. Reading as a skill is just do you know what to do next, right? Can you, that's basically it. It's just do you know what to do next from here while you're
uh,
playing?
I think people,
And
If you put it that way, it's very problem solving. Like,
Yeah, there I was gonna make like a whole slideshow and everything about all the different, stages and aspects and skills that go into, the whole umbrella term we call reading. But that's so much work. I started on it and I was able to it's not even for reading. It was for making reading maps. But obviously you have to explain what reading is in order to do that.
I'm I'm curious if you could outline a bit of that for us. What are the different aspects that go into reading?
Sorry, what was that?
Uh, I'm curious if you could outline or like give us sort of the spark notes of that like slideshow that you started making of like breaking down into like kind of separate categories, like what goes into reading.
Yeah, we're gonna go way past the hour if we do that.
I think that that's what a lot of people are curious to at least hear your breakdown of that.
Because even just in the PowerPoint, that's only related to mapping, and I simplified it using my skin, right? Because I don't have numbers and follow points and stuff like that.
Okay, let's actually start there then. So I think that might take a little less time to answer. So I feel like a lot of people, after coming across you as a player, think that, well, I guess in general, if you see a really good DT player, then you might want to use their skin to help you get better at that skill. But similarly, people might come across you and be like, oh man, I wonder what skin this guy uses. It must
Oh,
be
it's
really
so sad.
helpful. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I like at first I was a little annoyed because people would assume that my skin is good for reading and then they'd use it and they'd ask me questions about it and I'd have to disappoint them. Yeah. But then after, you know, I had this thought right way back then when I was still, you know, trying to play easy like on Banjo. And I thought, what if I got really good at this play style with a really troll skin? I wonder if people would actually, think that it's good. Because obviously it's not when you actually play with it. But I kind of now I feel bad that I kind of misled a lot of people unknowingly.
So, for those, since obviously this is only audio, can you kind of describe what exactly makes your skin so quote unquote bad?
Which one?
I guess just your sort of skins in general. I do know the big ones that stand out is that there's no numbers on the circles, and I think sometimes you play with no colors, and there's no follow points as well.
Yeah, my skins have changed over the years. I've basically I just go into Photoshop and I try something like I wonder how this is gonna play out. And just like I said, where I've grinded out a lot of skills that people wouldn't think of. I've that also includes different skinning, like omitting different skin elements and saying which ones are the most powerful, which ones help, which ones can technically hinder if you make it annoying enough. Um, hit lighting, follow points. I can give you a whole tier list on which ones are
Oh, I'm
stronger.
interested. I'm interested actually.
Yeah, I guess I could do a lot of like YouTube content and stuff, but for now I give myself a challenge to upload one video every day, or like just some play that I do.
Ah, that's right.
So yeah, I'm on number 286 or something.
What's your I guess first of all motivation for starting that, but also have you learned anything about I don't know in general from that process of uploading one play per day?
Um, it's tiring because I'm a perfectionist, right? And that's one of the things I'm trying to work on, kind of wearing that down. Before I would only upload if it's like an FC or something, and something that I grinded a lot for. Because I used to think that if I FC'd something, it was not worth my time. That I could have played it, slightly harder.
Ah, that's actually an interesting. mindset. So you don't really concern yourself with like getting super consistent, quote unquote, at a certain AR before moving on.
AR is just a number. It really depends on like the combination with the map, right? But yeah, I mean, if you just want to get good at one AR, you would be grinding forever because the maps can keep getting harder and you can keep coming up with patterns that you'll misread, especially when it comes to rhythm. And even at some point, I even started seeking out like, like people's first maps, right? Because there's so many mistakes in them.
Ah,
Because the kinds of maps that I'm known for, right? It's maps that are very difficult,
right,
um,
right.
not for good reason. And so I've kind of there was like a sort of like a training arc, just kind of playing quote unquote bad maps or maps with a lot of mistakes, just because I didn't want to have to rely on trusting the mapper and the map to be able to read stuff. I wanted to be able to read it regardless of their shenanigans.
Ah, okay. So I think what you're somewhat talking about is like a lot of more polished maps have like predictable patterns, like the same patterns kind of repeated again and again. So like if you read the first section, then you're usually able to extrapolate into the rest of the map. But you're saying like newer mappers that don't quite use the same kind of like concepts, like repeated over and over, or sometimes have like mistakes in rhythm or just general like quote unquote low quality, that kind of pushing yourself with reading on those maps does help with kind of making sure that you're actually reading the map because you're reading the notes as opposed to just predicting the rhythms.
Yeah, this actually goes into the different kinds of reading, and some of them are naturally stronger than others, right? Like predictive reading, where you're predicting based off of audio and um, patterns that you've seen before in the map, is generally just weaker because you can easily get tripped up by some, right? Like whenever the song changes, or there's uh, there's there's like an instrument that's playing that's like completely off the anything unpredictable, right? Like I've seen maps where the mapper will map like the singer coughing or whatever, or like breathing in, and you just have to at some point you just have to be able to hit the note regardless on a sight read.
So that's predictive reading. Are there any other like broad names of like categories of reading?
Yeah, I think the it would take a while to explain, but I guess just one of the other ones that I try to improve on the most is individual note reading, where it's completely independent of everything else. Just making sure you hit one note and making sure if you treat every single note as individual notes, you can't mess up, right?
In theory, because
In theory,
yeah,
yeah.
if you kind of simplify it to its kind of core element of just being one object.
Yeah, and then on hidden, there's multiple times that you can read the note, right? When it appears, when it fades out, and if you're really good, you can find other things as well. But yeah, that's how you play. Like if it's a really, oh man, I could talk on this forever. Uh,
You're more than I'm more than happy to have you just expand as much as you want. So, what are some of those advanced? I know it might be uh, more specialized of an explanation, but what are some of those more advanced ways to read? 'Cause you mentioned like when it appears and when it fades out, and then are there any other ways that you can kind of process low AR hidden objects?
well, even if you're only considering those two, there's so much you can do because, like, let's say for example, you're playing some map. I think it starts around like really high BPM easy or AR0, and AR0 on like normal maps where patterns are going back on top of each other. Because when you lower the AR, the amount of possibilities um, that the map can play out based on what you're seeing is it grows exponentially. unless you can really limit it um, based on your reading. So when a note goes back on itself and it's perfectly stacked, it can be really hard to tell when you need to hit it and what order you need to hit the notes. So I've had times where I would see a note appear, right? Like let's say note A appears and then note B appears. You know that A is first and then B is second, right?
Right.
And then you see um, note C appear, and now you know that C is third, right?
Right, right.
And then note B disappears before A. Then what do you do?
Ah, so you're saying like notes A and B are both gone at the same time, and you kind of have to remember which one was first.
No, B disappears first. A appears first and disappears later.
Wait, how does that work? I'm a little lost because I would think that the first note to appear then fades out first also.
Yeah, and you would have misread that pattern because there's actually a fourth note under A, right? There had to be a fourth
Oh.
note under A.
Oh, okay. I see what you're talking about now.
Yeah, so then it goes A B A C.
Ah,
Of
okay.
course, the second A would just be D or whatever.
Okay, got
But
it.
there's so many little like tricks like that that you would eventually come to that eventually become automatic.
Oh, so it's sort of like developing a sequence of like if then statements in your head where if you see a certain pattern of fading play out, then you sort of know that, and especially for you, since you're not playing with numbers, that seems especially important where you kind of have to use those other clues, which kind of adds that extra challenge to reading.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's why I play with these skins because it just makes that kind of reading it's just so like expanded. And I think at first I did this because I wanted to be able to read based off of hit circles like as well as possible. Like I didn't want to because the mapper can change up the combos and stuff whenever. And so if you start to rely on that, you get tripped up eventually if the mapper is evil. And there's a lot of those.
Can you walk us through sort of what is constant or what's going on in your head when you're reading a map or sort of let's say you're sight reading a map which I assume is what you're doing most of the time. What are you focused on and what I guess this mostly pertains to short-term memory in some sense, but let's talk first just about like how you sort of keep all the patterns in your head.
Yeah, you said it, short-term memory. It's just you see a note and you kind of have like a cue, and it gets really hard when you have to change that cue every whenever new information comes up. So if you're like double reading, right, based on when the note appears and when it disappears, you have to be able to kind of react to things instead of just playing based off of whatever is generally happening on the screen.
Oh, so going back to that earlier example of like A, B, A, C, where there was a note stacked on the A, when the notes appeared at first, you had that like a certain order. You assumed that it was A, B, C, and then as they
Yeah,
were fading, you kind of had to adjust that in the queue. And if that was the only pattern of the map, I'm sure it would be simple. But if that's in the middle of like 20 other notes on the screen at the same time, that's really where it starts to get really tricky.
yeah, exactly.
Interesting. So would you say are there certain ways you try to like chunk the patterns or kind of conceptualize them as like, oh, this one's kind of like a triple, or this one's like back and forth across like the screen, or like do you kind of group the patterns into shapes and just patterns in general, or do you try to keep them as individual circle as possible?
It's interesting because as you lower the AR, the patterns that you see become different, right? That's why you misread them. So you have to kind of start thinking of them in different ways. So like a square pattern, for example, right? I might not see it as a square pattern, even though on higher AR it's just four notes in a like a square layout. If you were to stack that, those four notes on top of each other like three times, and you changed up their order, it wouldn't just be four squares anymore or three squares, right?
Oh, that's interesting.
Eventually, you have to start giving them different names, but you don't have to like formally give them names, but the way you think about it has to be different.
Like the way you sort of break them down, like you can't just read them as a square anymore.
Yeah, I mean, you can't even see them as a square, especially when. And this is more for like memorizing a map as uh, instead of just reading. Because I'm not just a reading player. I'm like because I'm not afraid to memorize a map when I need to, which kind of I guess that's also a difference between most easy players. A lot of them kind of specialize in one or the other.
And like reading versus memorizing the maps.
Yeah,
So,
at least the top ones that I know of.
well, can you elaborate on like quote unquote needing to memorize the map? Is that just like if you're trying to get a good score, or is there merit in memorizing a map as a way to improve your reading?
So I guess both. Um, if you really want a good score and you don't want to wait till you're good enough, especially when there's like perfect stacks on hidden and you don't have numbers, I don't want to have to be able to play, 15-star maps in order to get the reading for AR0 perfect stacks on a 5-star map,
Right.
right? Because that just takes too long. I think ideally, if you want to be able to set as many scores, um, I think optimally you would want to combine reading and memory, but it really depends on your goal. I think early on, it's you end up having to memorize things because they're just above your skill level. It's kind of like learning a new language where early on you just kind of have to memorize words. You just have to memorize concepts, and then later on you can start combining them and you get a feel for the language.
Ah, that does make sense. So then, these days for you personally, what are your thoughts on memorizing maps? Is it something you do often or that you want to do often, or do you try to actively avoid memorizing maps?
No, I'll still memorize them if I feel like it, especially when I'm going to like a new density or something. I'll try it first on maps that I'm already kind of familiar with, just so that since I already kind of have the a little bit of muscle memory or the song rhythm in my head, then I can look at what I'm doing and I can. It's important to be real with yourself. I think that's the most important thing. That like I know I'm not actually reading it yet, but I can kind of see where my cursor is supposed to be in relation to how the playfield looks. And then, you know, after enough times your brain starts to recognize patterns.
You mentioned note density. Is that something that you have like in your client that can like calculate the note density of a map, or do you just kind of feel it out based on the difficulty?
Yeah, I just kind of feel it out. There's like a it's not true note density, it's more like effective note density where you have to consider so many possibilities based on the AR and the BPM, but it's not just limited to that, right? Like a lot of modern maps will have 1/4 rhythms like thrown in every
Right, right.
once in a while,
Like streams,
or
basically.
1/6. Yeah, yeah. I'm thinking more of like tech stuff where um, you'll have a lot of like sudden movements where because the song needs to be represented that way. Um, at least that's what I think the mapper's thinking. You just have to you have to be able to recognize. And having to recognize it, right? It's double BPM.
Right.
So the effective density is twice as high.
I'm curious, what are your favorite types of maps, or what are your favorite, like some of your favorite maps, and like what makes them so fun for you?
I think I like songs more than maps. Like I'll play it for the song.
Ah,
Because when it comes to the map, right, I've played so many different kinds of maps. and I've developed some skill in everything that I could find. So I don't really mind playing most things. And when you AR edit, a lot of things become ugly. So you kind of just become desensitized to how it looks aesthetically. But there are some mappers that I really enjoy, like Toybot, Skystar.
Are there any types of maps that you particularly dislike?
Anything with stack leaning C0, I think,
I was like perfect stacks, basically.
basically the worst thing that could ever happen in the game.
I know you've commented in the past on those like AR0 challenge maps that are really just a memorization test.
Yeah, I mean, if you play it as a memorization test, there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
It's just because of my background that I spent so much time learning to read it. It kind of feels bad um, whenever you're forced to play something like that. But I mean, not being connected to Bancho or most of the OS community, like I'm pretty free from that at this point.
So, what inspired you to start making your own maps? Was it sort of a lack of maps that really challenged you the way you wanted, or did you just kind of want to have fun mapping your own songs?
So I think the day after I started the game, I opened the editor and I decided to map a song. And yeah, I stayed up all night. I would do that like a few times a week just to map a whole song in one sitting, or at least in one day. And I was just I've always been fascinated by map editors in games, so that was just something that really attracted me there. Because I used to make maps on the first game was like Advance Wars, like a strategy turn-based game, and then like Warcraft 3, StarCraft.
Ah,
I just like I think ever since I was little, I was always coming up with like games to play for my cousins, and you know, so I think, oh yeah, like Halo 3 Forge as well. It's huge. Spend a lot of time there.
let's go.
Um, so yeah, I made a map. I was really really proud of it. It's actually my most successful map to this day. So I think I just kind of flopped as a mapper after that. But I was really proud of it, and I went to my friend because my friend was like 4 digit at the time or something. I thought he was like pro gamer, so I showed it to him. I was like, "Hey, what do you think of this map? I know it's not that good, but you can rate it out of 10. Give me your honest rating, right?" And I think you can guess what he said.
Oh dear.
Yeah, 0.
No.
So a little lower than I was expecting. I was hoping for like 3 or 2. But I mean, you download the game, you try to make a map. Of course, it's not gonna be good.
Yeah, you gotta start somewhere.
Yeah. But yeah, I just kept trying every once in a while.
So from there, you started making your own AR0 maps. Is that s- sort of for your own enjoyment, or was it for other people to have maps to break into those ARs?
I guess both. I really, yeah, your guesses for all these are actually pretty good. Um, I think for like the harder ones, I was just mapping for myself because I knew nobody is gonna play them, but I really liked the song and I just wanted to be able to play something that because I don't like criticizing like AR0 maps, but especially when I haven't made any myself, so I thought I should try to do something. And I don't criticize them because they're bad, but because I see potential. Right? When you really care about something, like if you care about a game and there's something that could be slightly better about it, like like it bothers you a little bit enough to want to say something.
So, for anyone who is trying to break into starting kind of pushing their really low AR, are there any general tips or advice you'd give for those players?
I think just play it, just try it. Um, Look at set goals. Look at what other people are doing. I think if you think low AR is really cool and you want to try it, you're you basically. I think the start is to just try it, right? I see a lot of people asking me how to get better at it, and they haven't really given it enough of an honest effort. They'll play. I think they'll look at top players and they'll be like, these guys are really good at reading and they can play normal stuff. They can just throw on easy and play it. So yeah, how come I can't do that? But I mean, in reality, you can. It's just you have to set the difficulty right.
Do you feel like through pushing reading, do you feel like that's actually improved your overall short term memory in day to day activities?
Day to day, no.
Uh,
They're well, I mean, you just never need to have that.
okay,
There's a
that's
reason why it's so unnatural when you first play it, or
okay.
even after you've grinded out the skill for years, it still feels unnatural.
Do you feel like there's a limit, so to speak, to like how far low AR can be pushed? Like, do you feel like, I mean, the theoretical lowest AR would be negative infinity, where all the notes are visible on the screen at once. Do you feel like there's a theoretical way to like get to the point where you can somewhat sight read those types of maps, or is there a limit
Well,
before that?
considering I play hidden, no, theoretically it's not possible to get there, which is why it's so good. It's so attractive to me because I can just keep pushing it forever, and I never have to worry about what if this becomes too easy or boring.
Ah, that's actually a good point. Yeah, because with without hidden, you'd at least be able to keep track of the approach circles and how they're closing in with negative infinity. But yeah,
Depends. I think the way approach circles work. Approach circles, by the way, are the strongest. I think they're in the highest tier of skin elements. But the one weakness that they have is that they appear um, in the newest ones appear on top, which means if you set the AR low enough, right? If you go down to like minus 100 or below, eventually you just won't be able to see the smallest approach circle anymore because the whole screen will be covered.
oh,
So at that point, you can't use them, and you have to rely on making them invisible and using the hit circle.
wait, that's actually true. Now that I think about it, all of the negative infinity or like super super low AR scores that I've seen on YouTube, they've all been with no approach circles. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, that's exactly why.
Interesting. So I would almost think they would start to like glitch out because there would need to be a certain like time frame between the approach circles appearing and then closing in. But if it's negative infinity, then in theory, like they wouldn't close in at all.
One Makosu, it removes them.
Oh,
Yeah, with the FM mod.
that's okay. That actually makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, if you actually just set the AR to negative infinity, that's what you just see a colorful mess.
That's funny. So speaking of other clients, I want to talk about Usu Laser for a little bit. I know you've messed around with it a little bit, especially the random mod. Do you have any thoughts on, I guess, the different laser mods and how they can sort of support those for fun playstyles?
Well, something that I'm seeing on the live chat first I wanted to address is there's asking what client I use,
Oh, sure.
and it's a modded version of OSU Stable. I think it's like a early 2020 build or something. Uh,
And I
yeah,
assume,
it's not.
uh,
Yeah, it's not publicly available, but it really has no advantages over Gosu. I think that's just way better.
it's just for you to edit the AR easily, I think.
Well, the only reason why I use it is because it has replays.
Oh, what do you mean by that?
Makosi, you can't view replays, so
Oh,
and since I have to upload to YouTube every day, I have to be able to replay the score because I don't want to be recording, all the time.
okay.
I'm on a laptop.
So yeah, I'm curious about Laser and your thoughts on the sort of for fun mods.
Oh yeah, I did like a little review on Twitter. I think those are. I think all the ideas, like the base ideas for them, are really good. The actual implementation for some of them could be better,
Do you have
but after all, they're
specific
just for
examples?
fun, right?
That's true. Do any mods come
Um,
to mind that you think could be implemented better?
uh, all of them except for the barrel roll, I think.
Oh,
But that can be a topic for another time.
okay.
I think lasers headed in good direction. There's some changes that we'll have to decide on, that will need you know other players' input because I'm just someone that plays for fun, right? Like I'm not into all the competitive aspects of it, so I'm not really the best person to ask for anything other than just the fun mods.
That's fair. Although I do want to tunnel a little more on the random mod. I think you've mentioned that it's one that sort of creates a really unique challenge to the game. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah. Um, I guess when you're trying to develop your reading skill, you want to be able to consider all the different options. And when you replay a map, you're kind of limiting those options based on what you played before. So sorry, I just looked at the
The
chat.
chat. Oh yeah, someone mentioned the. Someone said, "Have you
Nice,
done this aspect of the game? It's all single tapping on stream maps."
nice score.
Nice.
If it's mechanical, it, I would need like because I'm ranked what like 37K, right? So I mean, obviously I've tried it, but not on this level. What were we talking about again?
Random mod.
Oh yeah, yeah. When you're developing reading, you want to be able to consider everything. So replaying the map kind of limits it, and so you don't get as good of a practice when you're playing the same map. But sometimes you just like the song a lot. So if you want to be able to play the same map, and still get good, as good of a practice as when you're sight reading, I guess it's not as good because you already know the song, but it's better than you know having to find a different map.
That's fair. So you sort of have like infinite maps within the same map.
Yeah.
I'm really curious about puzzles a bit more for some reason. I think I'm sort of very curious to rack your brain about what I guess your experience with puzzle creation, even because I'm sure, I mean, you even mentioned that across different games, you spent a lot of time with level editors. So, are there any like fun, I guess, puzzle ideas that you've either encountered in the past or that you think have a lot of potential?
Like within the game, like OS.
Not necessarily OSA, I think just puzzle
Mm.
ideas in general that are really intriguing to you.
Um, yeah, but that's gonna take some time to explain it. It's like I've had ideas of like different games that I wanted to make. But as far as OSU, there's still a lot you can do, right? Because I tried to play the game in many different ways, And in a way, each of those is like a new puzzle. You have to figure out um, the strategy to get to where you want to be. And even as far as, just improvement, you can treat that as a puzzle as well. How can I get the skill I need to set a certain kind of score to be able to set that like it's normal?
Are there any mistakes you feel like you've made along your improvement progress that you want to make sure other people can learn from?
I think you should keep your keep your goals in mind and just work towards them. If you don't really have like if you're just improving um, to improve, it kind of the only way you can get stuck is if you don't have a clear idea of, what that means to you, I think.
So like having a really clear vision of why you want to improve.
Yeah, I mean, well, why you want to improve is more for like the continuing, but
Oh,
like
okay.
how to improve
Uh,
depends on, you have to have like clear steps to get there. Because otherwise you're just, you might, because I've talked to some people that, they say they really want to get good at this, right? At a certain thing. But then, I look at what they play and it's not really, um, they're missing something, right? They're playing too high above their level or too low,
but
or maybe they're not
sometimes,
even playing it at all.
yeah, yeah, exactly. That's
So, and you can't really, there's no excuse. You're not guaranteed improvement. Um, not guaranteed, but you're not entitled to improvement. You have to kind of figure out how to get there.
I like that mindset a lot actually. Do you have any players that have really inspired you or that still inspire you today?
Oh, like players?
Oh yeah, yeah, players.
Yeah. Um, Basically all the easy players, all the top players. I think everyone's just so amazing at this game. Because of the way I play, it's so like different to the way most people play. I can I can look at their gameplay and think it's really cool because I can't do that. It's so different.
So like basically respecting everyone individually for their own accomplishments and abilities as a player.
Yeah, for me, what matters the most what impresses me the most is playtime. I think if the more you play, the better you get at something. And it might not get you the best leaderboard scores or the most PP or whatever, but like you never know, right? Someone could be playing with some, uh, I don't know, like pain in their wrist, right? Where they can't tap. And you just never know if, without that, if they could have been really good, right? Or someone could have might not be able to see as well, but they have a lot of playtime. Like you just get good at something, right? Like for me, I get good at, you know, my play style or whatever. Wait, am I too low?
Um, I think it's okay. It's been okay. It shouldn't be that
Oh,
bad.
okay, okay, okay. Sorry, I was just looking at the chat.
Oh yeah.
Uh, um, I forgot what I was talking about. Oh yeah, yeah. Like you get good at something, right? Like um, if you play only low start rating maps, you get good at low start rating maps. You don't have to, um, like you can take someone that's really good, right? Someone like, I don't know, some 2, 3 digit player, and if you have them play in a tournament match, um, sight reading with hidden only, with like AC win condition against Solaria, right? It's just impossible.
That's true. I think it's really important uh, to basically recognize everyone for their own individual skill set.
Yeah, like even if you're playing, you could be playing with uh, some random condition, right? Like maybe someone has to play with their pinky, right, for some reason, right?
Right,
Or you have to play with your feet because you don't have arms or whatever. Like everything has. I mean, those are extreme examples, but
right,
it doesn't have to be that bad, right? Maybe you just can't get a good setup, or your room is really cold, right?
right.
And eventually you just learn to adapt. And for me, that's really cool. I think it might be a little different from what most people think because I've been playing on my own client, right? I'm not connected to Bancho. So I've been playing on my own with only my own leaderboard scores, my own local scores to compete with. So for me, skill is just like if skill is a combination of all the different things that you're good at and all the challenges that you've overcome, and with the conditions that you're playing in, then it really just becomes playtime.
I'm curious about a couple not necessarily OC related questions. The first, I guess I'll start with your username. I always like asking for username stories. So I'll ask what the
So,
story is behind Aery.
when I played, because back then I used to have different names for everything, so I never really had one name. And I think I was playing Guild Wars 2, and I had a character named Aery. That was my main character. I had a bunch on there, and I just liked it, so I thought, okay, I'm gonna change everything to this. And then, yeah, then League of Legends made it into a room.
Ah, so the name came first.
So they took my name, so I took their icon.
That's funny. And then recently, I think you made this current one that you're using.
Yes.
Did you feel like you had given them enough punishment of having stolen your name?
um, I just made it. It was like a little. I think I asked a question in my server, to design a flag, like a personal flag if you had one. Um, and so I just came up with the. I just made it black at first, and then I added like a blue circle, and then I just added some ears and stuff.
Oh,
Eventually, it came to this.
I see. So you were kind of trolling at first. It's just put a black image.
No, I just like the color black.
Oh,
I think it's really cool.
okay. So I'm curious also what your favorite games are. Maybe a top, I guess, three, five, just a top handful of
Mm,
fun games that come to mind for you that have been your sort of all-time favorites.
oh man, that's hard. I've been a gamer since, well, for a long time because my parents got me to play the PlayStation 1 when I was too young to remember. My dad introduced me to chess at age 5, and I got pretty decent at that. Was playing like tournaments at national level for my age.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I think I won number one in Texas when I was like 8 or something. So I was technically the best second grader
At chess
at
in
that time.
Texas.
Yeah, it's yeah, and then I just got into all kinds of games. I think strategy RTS are probably some of my favorites, and then things with map editors where I can just be creative and make whatever I want, design challenges for myself and friends.
Do you have any other games that you play actively these days?
Yeah, Warframe. It's a MMO, a third-person co-op shooter. I really enjoyed co-op games, so I don't know why. I think just working I think I just don't like PvP because you're only playing against humans and it's not really that fun.
Not really a challenge compared to playing against the computer. I guess playing against the puzzle.
Yeah, I because I a lot in a lot of these games I play based on um, I think the way my personality is. I have like certain ideals, and I'm just like if the game were perfectly balanced, I would this would be the most fun way to play. So then I just play that and get good at it. But it gets hard when in a game like League of Legends where it's being so actively balanced. If your play style is not generally accepted, right? It can just be gone the next patch.
No.
That happened a few times, so it's kind of hard to really want to invest. But I played that game a lot.
What were your favorite playstyles in that game, League of Legends? Oh no.
uh, I think the most notable one is AP Shen
Oh.
because because back then, right, you had the huge AP scaling. It's a little lower now, but and it also scales with health, I think. But you really had to understand how it worked and what you can get away with and how how to outplay your you know your opponent early on because since you're at such a disadvantage.
That reminds
So I
me
mean,
of
competitively, it would never work. But
uh
if if you get good enough, you can just play at your own skill level.
that reminds me of AP Scion back then, around that, I don't know, season
I was so
4.
broken.
I have fond memories of spamming AP Scion in mid, but I digress. So,
I think I was one of the original AP Tristana players.
oh no.
One shot people, and there's nothing they can do.
I'm
But
curious.
that kind of
I'm curious what you meant by perfectly balanced and sort of that ideal. Is there like a specific example that you can give us for that?
because Riot prides on balancing their game. Right, they have a
Right.
dedicated balance team and everything. So I thought eventually this becomes balanced.
Oh, like in theory, if all things are equal, is there a certain game that you think has gotten to that point and you have a certain.
So if I want to like grind out a skill, right, I might as well play whatever is most fun because eventually it becomes balanced.
Oh, okay.
I,
Interesting.
I didn't I didn't realize that if they don't see it as a valid playstyle, it gets deleted.
Oh no. That sounds horrible if you put it that way.
But I mean, I had a decent sized champion pool. Nowadays it's like two champions because I don't really bother to invest in um, playing as much. I mean, I haven't played this year at all, so
Uh,
but there's plenty of games where you can um, just make it fun for you.
yeah, that seems like a really big takeaway, I guess, of your sort of style, I guess, both as a player and a person, where, especially based on what you were just talking about, with kind of like disregarding balance or meta or anything like that, just kind of like living in or like playing in such a way where you assume that everything is equally viable. And so it's like, if that's the case, then just play however is most fun for you.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you have,
Um,
wait, what's up?
I was gonna say something, but
Yeah, go.
I got distracted by my dog.
Oh,
Um, yeah, when it comes to games, there's just a lot of different. I played different games for different reasons, right? Some of them are just to chill, some of them to have fun with friends. Um, I think I kind of I try not to rely on the dev to make the game fun for me. I kind of try to figure out how to make it fun for myself. I think I take responsibility for whether or not I have fun in the game rather than just blaming whoever made it. I think that's like a common theme. um, for my personality that I try not to blame other people for for anything that I'm not satisfied with. So um, so if a game's not like challenging enough or whatever, like I will impose that on myself to make it fun, basically. If I need to make my own maps to enjoy, then I'll do that. And that's why games where you have a lot of customization and potential for creating your own challenges are that's why those are so attractive to me.
Are there any other mindsets that you sort of hold core to your kind of beliefs or view of the world?
What do
Like you're talking about how like you try to not have like you try to take responsibility for making things fun for you. Is there any other sort of principles that you apply when I guess just playing games in general, or I guess it can even apply outside of gaming as well?
man, what is this? I was not prepared for these questions. I thought we were just gonna talk about clicking circles. Um, there's a lot of things that I believe. I'm a very idealistic person, um, perfectionist, just a lot of things that would definitely take too long to discuss. I think in the end, I want to have fun and I want to help people.
I think those are two very, I guess, strong ways to live by, or very powerful ways to live by. But yeah, do you have
Yeah,
any? Oh, were you gonna say something?
yeah. I mean, there's a lot more, but that'll have to be. Uh, I'll have to talk on that some other time.
Yeah, I think I think a lot of people, especially anyone who listens to this, I think we're all eager to see, especially if you're able to get around to making content at some point. That that seems like something that a lot of people might be interested in, or I at least I can say that I would be interested in.
I think next year, because this year I'm still uploading every day. I want to at least finish that.
Okay.
So close.
Do you have like ideas in mind for like what that sort of format, like do you want to do a specific format like you're doing right now with like consistent type of upload for the entire year, or like a certain time frame, or what would you say for that?
I'll probably try to do I'll probably take a break first because it's really tiring to
All
upload
right.
one thing every day, especially because I don't play every day. So I have to get multiple plays in a session. And then sometimes I go out of town or something. So I just have to like play a lot some days. Um, but there's a lot that I've learned from this. Like it's not about getting views or anything. It's mostly like a progress log. But I also, for people that are interested in following me and stuff, I also do want to have that up there so they know what I'm doing. I don't know if you know, but this month I'm doing a challenge where I'm playing without cursor and without slider ball, no reverse arrow or spinner either.
Oh, I
So
did
you
see
have
that.
to, yeah. So this is really challenging my reading and stuff. Coaching. Oh, yeah. There's a question in the live chat about coaching. I am technically a coach in the server. I think.
All right, yeah, you are.
Yeah, I don't have the role, but I
Wait,
am.
what? Oh dear, how did that happen? Okay, there you go.
Oh, nice.
Oh. Anyway,
Yeah, but my Metafy isn't up yet, so. But I mean, if you're really interested, you can work something out. What else? I think after this year, I want to start catering more to my viewers. I want to actually give them content that they are interested in. Because right now it's just like it's mostly a progress log.
right.
I am, I am sharing what I'm doing with them, but it's not like geared towards them specifically. So I think I think a lot of people are interested in learning about
Oh,
reading.
wait, can you repeat that? You kind of cut out.
Oh, sorry, my dog is
Oh no.
asking for attention, which she deserves. Um, all right, I'll need a minute.
Okay.
Okay. Um, but yeah, I think people would be interested in mapping low AR, playing low AR, just different concepts of reading, why some patterns are harder than others, how to improve at hidden with low AR, how to get into play styles that are kind of outside the scope of what is considered a skill in the game. I think things about mindset as well, but there's a lot of potential topics that I'm also interested in learning about what people want, but that's not going to be until next year.
Yeah, I'm super excited for that personally.
I also have to learn how to edit videos well as well.
Well,
Yeah, get an editor.
yeah, I think you can always start somewhere, even if it's just at first just kind of getting into posting videos rather than, I guess, worrying so much about like the specific quality, because I think perfectionism can stunt a lot of YouTube channels.
Yeah, but that's definitely something that I'll have to. That's one of the reasons why I'm uploading every day, right? Just to get over that perfectionism, because I can't upload a perfect play every day.
Ah, that's true.
And especially with the mindset that I have of, if I FC something, I'll feel bad that maybe I could have FC'd it with slightly lower AR or higher CS or whatever, right? And so, like, how can I actually, there's always a way to, like, min max, right? To get it slightly better or slightly more impressive, slightly more ac, or, cheesing the pattern slightly less. And it becomes really limiting because you just run out of time at that point. So by forcing myself to upload every day, one of the things I'm wearing down is that perfectionism.
Yeah,
But yeah, I'll have to. It's definitely gonna be a learning process.
yeah, and I think being able to always come back to this, because I think like by the end of this project, I think you'll have really strengthened that like kind of wearing out that perfectionism or kind of like putting it to the side. But as time progresses, I think being able to really come back to that sort of state that you're in after doing this project, as far as like not letting that perfectionism get to you with your future videos, is something that I think will be really important.
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
But yeah, that's exciting. I'm excited, and hopefully those listening, I'm sure, are very excited as well for what you have in store. Do you have any final thoughts or opinions or anything else you want to shout out or share with the world?
Yeah, shout out to everyone listening. You're all awesome. Yeah, I mean, especially because I don't really consider myself a top player, so doing an interview like this is kind of, I don't know how to explain, but it gives me a feeling.
Well, hopefully it's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, I think people have generally been very supportive of what I do.
Yeah, and
Um,
I think for good reason.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's unique to find people who really push to push games in the far extremes of like how it can be fun in ways that people don't think of otherwise, and sort of using their creativity for good, so to speak.
And I mentioned before that I can remember like all the turning points in my skill development, that I can tie them to like friends that said things at certain
Right.
times, and the people that kind of cheer me on, that give me send me nice messages every once in a while, also kind of encourage me to keep playing. I think I mean, going to COE and meeting a lot of people that are all very cool. I think that also makes me want to play more.
Oh, yeah. How'd you rate your overall COE experience? Was that your first time going?
Second time. Second
Uh,
time. Yeah. It was pretty good. I enjoyed it. I got to stay with some awesome people, and I think the show match was really. I was pretty nervous, but that I think I had some advice from Fancy Lad, my coach, that I was able to really put to use there.
Advice in terms of like nerves performing on stage or like specific skill sets or what?
Yeah, nerves.
Is there anything that really helped you? You'd say?
Just if you're known to like if you're quote unquote supposed to be good at something, right? You're expected to perform. That can be really nerve wracking.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I can imagine. Yeah, you were
Yeah.
literally put there as a 1v3 as like I almost for some reason the term zoo animal is coming to mind. Not really like a circus animal. That's the phrase, but
Yeah.
not quite that dehumanizing, but sort of kind of I don't know. That's what came to mind for me. I don't know if that resonates at all.
Uh, sure. Uh, I mean the way I see it is probably I mean because they're my friends. People I'm playing against. It's just a friendly match. It's not, I'm not that competitive, so it's not like I'm gonna do everything I can to win. Like I still play with the background on and everything on my laptop, but again, it's for fun, right? And so I did what's fun. I had the trip overall was great, and I mean that show match was one of the best times in my life, really, because I'm playing with people that are my inspiration, uh, friends, people that I think are awesome, and then on top of that, it was a match with my playstyle. So I got to play, the things that I like, and then on maps made by, you know, more friends, basically. Like everything about that is just kind of surreal. Like even today, like when I put it in those terms, it seems like a dream.
Oh, that sounds so wholesome. Sort of exactly how Osu was designed to be enjoyed.
Yeah,
And
I think I have a lot of similar opinions as like people who just want to see the game played for fun, like with Peppy and the background dim, having storyboards enabled and everything. There's a question in the live chat asking how much better or worse I play with negative AR. I mean, obviously it's worse. AR is not preference. Like the lower it gets, the
so
harder it is.
I'm curious for you specifically, since you're kind of so adapted to lower ARs, what your current preferences would call high AR? Like what kind of feels fast for you right now?
Well, I would call anything above zero high, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it feels fast. Like it's still going to be comfortable up until I don't know 8. It could be. It also depends on the map because like if I kind of know the map, I can play it on 10.5. Like it's AR is just a number. It really depends on the context,
Uh,
what you're doing.
yeah, that's I think that's probably the best way to look at it for sure.
But because I didn't I didn't play because like I don't just play like I didn't just play low AR by the whole time. I started out 2014, 2015. I think 2015, 2016 I was a farmer, so I played just the typical farm maps at that time. Um, and then on this client, I'd sometimes play higher AR, like 11, 11.3, just for fun. Like I was never good at it, but I like to try everything because it's a unique challenge, right? And I think one of the things for me that contributed to why I play the way I do is just everything is just another challenge. It's just another layer on top of other challenges. Because the way we play OS, right, we're using an input device, and the way our muscles have to control that to be able to get what what you're trying to do, like your cursor movement, like in a certain angle, certain speed, and being able to tap. Like it's also what's the word? I guess like scuff. Like the way your brain has to translate all that information and do it all in time is kind of insane when you think about it.
Right.
Like you're already doing so much, and I'm just adding more layers onto that because everything's a challenge. Like if I'm gonna play with the map skin, then that's just another challenge. Like I'm not gonna expect to do better. Of course I'm gonna do worse if there's a skin where the 300's like covering up the circles underneath. But that's just part of the it's just part of the experience. And if you take that as a challenge, you figure out how to deal with it eventually. But in the end, it's if you're looking for improvement, right? It's all about being real. It's all about, not lying to yourself, not being arrogant, not assuming that you can do something that you can't, or that you can't do something that you can. Like not giving yourself the opportunity to play something hard just because you think it's impossible. Because the way your brain works, right, is when you do something right, you try to remember it so that you can do it again when the opportunity presents itself, or when the situation looks the same, I guess, to your
Right.
brain. So it's important to keep giving yourself that opportunity to hit the pattern, basically. That way, you might surprise yourself and actually hit it. That's why it's important to push skill cap, but also it's important not to make sure that you haven't missed anything before. So it's important not to assume that you can play something, because back then, when I was playing on Bancho, when I started the game, or when I started up the game, I would find a map that I believed I could FC, and then I would FC it. And a lot of times I just wouldn't be able to, and I'd have to figure out, it's kind of like a humbling experience where I just have to grind it out. It's like I'm just not as good as I thought I was, or whatever. And
Uh,
with that mentality, eventually you start to cover things that you missed. Uh, And this is, I don't know if this applies to all the playstyles, but especially with easy hidden, like it takes forever to master. Like no matter how good you get, you find a pattern that just trips you up. Just, you just can't, play it well for whatever reason. And you have to figure out what went wrong and how to do it. And it can come from a really hard map, or a map that in theory should be very easy, but in practice isn't. And it just goes back to, doing that, doing those field tests. It's the same with, it's a similar concept in like with mentality for, I guess, dealing with like some mental illnesses where you start to believe things that might not be true. But yeah, these concepts, I mean, they apply to different aspects of life too. It's really interesting to me how a lot of things are related.
oh, yeah, that for sure is something that I've thought about a lot too, sort of how concepts are really transferable between domains. But yeah, I don't know. I have a lot of respect for sort of the ability to almost turn anything into a puzzle and find difficulty in kind of that challenge of cracking the like I guess being able to solve quote unquote the challenge that you put in front of yourself, even if there's no inherent challenge there, kind of having the creativity to make your own. So yeah, that's I think one of the biggest things that I have a lot of respect for.
Yeah, I think also assigning value to these challenges, like even if it doesn't give you any ranks, or if it doesn't, right, if it doesn't have any other purpose than just defeating the challenge, if you treat it as a valid challenge, then you start thinking about ways to overcome it, and eventually you just might.
I think that is a good place to wrap up unless you have any other thoughts you want to share out there, although I'm sure within a couple months or so we'll start seeing some banger YouTube videos.
No promises. No promises. I still have other projects as well, especially with mapping that I've been putting off a lot. But yeah,
uh,
hopefully.
well, I want to appreciate you again for taking the time to share your thoughts and wisdom. Do you have any places where people can find you other than your Osu profile?
Um, yeah, I have Twitter. That place is fantastic. A lot of hilarious people on there. Aery loves. And then on Twitter or on YouTube, it's Aery area. It's just Aery with the A after it. And then on Twitch, I don't really stream often these days, but maybe I should. It's just Aery underscore. It's kind of hard having a name like Aery because like it's always taken, so you have to
All right.
come up with a variation, and then depending on how popular it is, like the variations are also taken.
That's true.
Oh yeah, and just also on Discord. Like I don't be afraid to message me on Discord.
Oh, yes,
I'm
I
not
can.
I'm not really that popular, so it's not like I've got no time for anyone.
In your Discord is Aery number 0011.
Yes, that is correct.
So,
Capital A. I think it matters on Discord.
yes, it does. Capital A.
Okay, yeah.
All right. Thank you, everyone. And thank you again, Aery. We'll see you all next time.
Yeah, and thank you for having me here as well.